understood under the proper knowledge and proper light of information and knowledge. Until and unless you get its etymology, a perfect root where the word has come from, you will not get it. For example, same is not the case in other languages. If you say Sanskrit, so in Sanskrit language there are many other words which do have some reasons. I would simplify this particular characteristic and I would say that why the particular object is called that particular with that particular name. Say for instance, why this object is called glass. There is no strong reason for calling this particular object as in glass. What is the connection? If you say structuralism, so how the word is formulated, GLASS, what is the logic of this particular combination of these letters? We do not know. Again, acronyms means, for example, if we say UK, so that is called a United Kingdom. If we say TV, so that is television. So these are called acronyms. So there is a short form of the word which is very long to speak, which is too long to speak. Anyway, the main point is that when we say language is arbitrary, we simply mean that we do not have a particular or strong or logical or scientific reason of calling any object with its that particular name. So there must be certain connection, there must be certain reason. For example, if you say Sanskrit word Hriday, it is made of 3 letters, Ha, Da and Ya. Every letter has something with the function of the heart. As we know that heart is actually a pump that first of all squeezes the blood from the body, then it purifies and then it spreads. So there is 3 types of processes going on. There are 3 acts done by a heart, function of heart rather. So Ha means Hari Lev, that means to squeeze. Da means Dev, that means to donate, and Ya means to spread, that means Felau. So this is what the function of heart is. That first it squeezes the blood, then it purifies, then it spreads the body all around. So this is how the word Hriday is made of in the Sanskrit word or in any other language. Same is not the case with other languages. Say for instance in English, in Arabic language has very limited vocabulary. Therefore you will find there are so many objects for the same word. It happens. So this is one of the drawbacks of language, we can say. The next characteristic is language is a system of system. Into bracket I have said that it is interdisciplinary. What do we mean by interdisciplinary? When we try to understand what communication is, we cannot understand the word communication all alone. For example, when we try to explain the communication word in our class, we have to take example for science. For example, if we try to understand what is intrapersonal and extrapersonal communication, so we have to take an example that our body is made of electrochemical cells and all. We have to take an example how paralysis patient and the body parts, they are not working properly. Mind is something that delivers the message and rest of the parts of body that receive the message and accordingly they work. This is how communication happens within the body. Point is that when we explain communication, we have to take example from psychology. We have to explain that process of communication is one type of psychological process. It is a mental process. When we explain communication, we have to take an example of society. So social references we have to take. When we explain communication, we have to also explain where from the language came. So we have to explain bit historical aspect, anthropological aspects. So many sciences and history and sociology and other sciences, the disciplines we have to include. For example, when we say phonetics, so when we say linguistics, so again when we will attach any suffix to any word, for example x, so it will turn into a science. For example, poetics, politics, mathematics, statistics. Similarly, linguistics. So linguistics will be a science of language. So the science of language will discuss the function of a language or certain aspects of language. So linguistics, you can take an example of a tree. There is a huge tree and that tree has many other branches. Similarly, linguistics is like a huge tree that has many other branches that will come in the next few slides. But here the point is to understood is language is a system of systems. For example, when we discuss language, we also learn grammar, we also learn structuralism, we also learn phonetics and all. Next characteristic is language is primarily vocal. By vocal we mean that primarily we speak language. When we say vocal, we mean that we include sounds, we include phonemes. That's why we have to understand how to pronounce the particular words and all. So therefore we can say that language is primarily vocal. Next characteristic is it is devised by humans only. It is a social setup. I will take these last two words together, parallel. Devised by humans being and social setup. I would say that language is a technology. Language is a technology, and the people inventing technology, working on technology, and working with technology. There are three words. Please pay attention. People who are working on technology, who are inventing technology, or they are working with technology, they have to take these last two aspects in mind, that language is a devised, or language is devised by human beings only, and it is a social setup. So one has to take in mind, one has to take into consideration that any invention, any scientific invention, until and unless it is passed or it passes through language, it will not come out. So language is devised by human, and therefore we say that language is a technology. Why language is a technology? Because had language been not a technology, like animals and birds, they create same sound anywhere they may be. Same would have been the case with the human beings, but it is not the case. Human beings can speak different languages at different places, and therefore we can say that language is a technology, because we have invented language for our own use. We have invented language for our own comfortable use, comfortability rather. We have invented language for our own help to express our idea in the most in the easiest way rather. And therefore language is an invention by human being, it is devised by human being, and it is utilized only and only by human being. To understand this particular aspect, you have to also go back hundreds and thousands years, and you have to think that how a primitive man used to communicate. There was a particular way of communication even then, because then the language didn't exist. But man, when human being I mean, it was as good as any other animal. So even animals, we know that even they can communicate. The only difference is they do not have language. Similarly, when language didn't exist, even though person or human being, he or she could communicate. The only difference is at that particular time we were not able to devise or invent language in the same form that exists with us today. This is the point to be considered. And therefore under this particular question we will also understand in next few slides that how language is taught and how language is learnt by particular human being. So these all are the characteristics of language. These are not the only characteristics. Please take in mind, these are not the only characteristics of language, but I have sorted out certain very important characteristics of language so that we can understand it in a proper light of knowledge. The next aspect is anthropologically and scientifically. As we all know that when Charles Darwin he came up with his book The Origin of Species, where he declared and that man once upon a time was an ape. So he gave the rule of or the formula of revolution and evolution and all, and he proved scientifically, he tried to prove rather, that how a man became a man from an ape, how gradually and slowly the appearance started changing. We need to know that where is the language in this particular rule of evolution or revolution. How a man who once upon a time was an ape turn into a man. By the way, here there is a big conflict, or we can say a clash, or there is a dispute between the Darwinian thought and the religious thought. As we know that certain holy scriptures, they prove religiously and spiritually that as in Christianity we know that Adam and Eve, they were the first human beings on the earth. Similarly, in Islam, Quran says that Adam and Bibi Hawa, they were the first progenies of the world created by Almighty. Even in Hinduism, there is a concept of Manu Smriti. Manu was the first human being of the earth. And similarly, there are many other concepts and perceptions available with the thought that there was no ape, or there is no concept that man once upon a time and was an ape, and then gradually and slowly he became a man. So there is a clash, there is a differences, there are oppositions, and there are misconceptions and confusions existing between these scientific inventions and the spiritual facts or the religious facts. These are all metaphysical, something beyond our understanding. So we will also understand, or we will rather try to understand, how language plays a role in human growth. Where is a language? When we say that once upon a time man was a primitive man, he used to live in caves. Even then he used to draw certain pictures, he used to write in the caves. Rock edicts, they are available. We will take an example in the next few slides how the rock edicts, they were written, and how person used to write on walls and stones. So stone grabs and rock edicts, they are already there, even today they are existing. So point is that language is not as old as the human. What science says, according to this all inventions, scientific invention and clashes and disputes, once upon a time, as in the origin, if you see the origin of species, so it will be different from the other spiritual and religious concepts. So here there is a concept, here there is rather I would say a paradox or an opposite concepts between the scientific invention and the other few things which are available already either in the holy scriptures or in the holy books or with any other sources. Now in the next slide, that is very very important, the answers of the questions, the unanswered questions. As in the first few slides we kept on asking, what is a language, what is the process of language. Here I have tried to explain the sources of learning, wherein we will not only discuss the process of learning language, but we want to know that how a person can learn. So as you can see that there are 4 to 5 sources of learning. The first source of learning is instincts. Now what it is? For example, nobody teaches a child bird how to receive food from the mother bird. Nobody teaches that particular child. Nobody teaches a human child that if you are hungry you have to cry, so that from your crying mother comes to know that my child is hungry. All these are called instincts. So instincts are available with human beings, instincts are available with animals. So both human beings and animals both have instincts, and both animals and human beings, they can learn through instincts. So that you must have seen animals, even they have feelings, even they have emotions, even a dog, you see extra personal communication. So if you throw a piece of chapati to a dog, so dog will come, begging its and moving its tail. So what does it communicate? What does it show? It shows or it communicates that even dogs, even animals, even they can communicate. The only difference is they do not have language. But what they communicate, what they have understood on the basis of the instincts. So what animals they have learned, what we have learned from different sources. So the first source of learning is the instincts. So many things we learn from instincts, many things, as we can see the second one, please have a slide. The second one is senses. So there are 5 senses, as we can see. So how a person can come to know that something is hot and something is cool or cold? How a person comes to know that this is a yellow color or this is a black color? How some person comes to know that this sounds good and that sounds bad? This is sweet and this is bitter. So this is the concept of senses. So few things we come to know from senses. So like that, something we cannot understand from instincts, we can understand from senses. So this is what, and all these things, first 4 things are provided or given to a human being or animals by God. So first thing is given to animals as well as human beings by God, that is instincts. So both animals and human beings both can learn certain things through instincts. Both can learn certain things through senses. So even animals would come to know whether the water is hot or not, whether it is cold or not. The third point that will take human being away from animals, or that will differentiate human beings from animal, and that is intellect. That is available only with human beings and not with the animals. Animals do have senses, but they do not have intellect. So certain that we cannot understand through instincts, we can understand through senses. Few things which we cannot understand through senses, we can understand through intellect. And the fourth thing, sometimes persons may have instincts, they have senses, they have intellect also, but still they cannot learn anything, they cannot understand anything. The process of understanding or learning becomes incomplete. Although the third point is dependent on the second one. The third point is intellect. So if person has intellect, he will understand something, but until and unless person will not sense it, he will not understand it. So their intellect will not work. So in order to make your intellect work, in order to take your intellect into function in working, you must sense something, you must experience something. So we might forget what is heard,